I am Dr. Sheila Segerson, a veterinary behaviorist and director of shelter solutions at Maddie's Fund. Welcome to Maddie's Monthly Behavior Connection, a monthly webcast that's all about animal behavior. Today, we welcome Trish McMillan of Shelter Behavior Hub and Laurie Lawless of Shelter Behavior Integrations. Welcome to you both. I'm going to turn it over to you so you can get started.
All right, we're going to launch into it then. Thank you so much for coming. Laurie and I are very passionate about sharing this information. We really, really love playgroups as a way to enrich and assess and get to know our dogs and figure out what kind of home they would fit best into. And the more you know about how to break things up or slow things down if an altercation starts to happen, the more confident you're going to be letting your dogs interact. And I feel really strongly about this being part of our job. So we're going to start with a sound warning. If you have animals in the vicinity, if you have dogs who are sensitive to dog sounds on your computer, maybe pop the headphones on. There will be actual dog fights in this presentation. There will be a lot of scary noises. So if you have a dog who might react to that, just put some headphones on now. So Laurie and I feel really strongly that playgroups are best practices for sheltering. If you're not doing off-leash dog-to-dog introductions in your shelter, guess who's going to be doing it? It will be people in your community. They will not have the tools. They will not have the training that you have. And that introduction is going to happen at Thanksgiving when Aunt Betty puts her Chihuahua down in the living room. And that is really not ideal. So we need to get to know our dogs. We need to let them interact. It's also the best exercise, the best enrichment, the best way to, I feel like I know a dog pretty well after I've taken them from their kennel to the play yard, let them interact with people, let them interact with dogs. I feel like I know them a lot better than I did when I was doing the old-fashioned poke them with a rubber hand kind of assessments. Anytime you got two dogs with teeth in an area, a fight could happen. Hopefully you are using muzzles if you're not sure. And the things that we naturally want to do when we see two dogs start fighting are usually the wrong things. So it's better to know this stuff and not need it than to need it and not know it. So really excited to be teaching you guys some safe techniques for slowing down conflict between dogs.
So in addition to the safe techniques that we want to teach you today, we really want you to take away from this that overall you're less afraid to run play groups and also figure out, how and when to intervene between dogs that are escalating potentially or already engaging in an altercation. We want you to feel prepared. So we want you to have the know-how, the tools. We want you to know how to apply those tools. And then we also want you to have a good understanding of the difference between when you can go hands off and when to go hands on in a dog fight. There's two different types of dog fights. Typically, we've got slash and dash, which is where you're getting a lot of teeth and there's a lot of biting and re-gripping. Typically, there's a lot of loudness involved in that. And then the other type is when we have a gripper grab and hold. And those are going to be handled very differently. So we're going to cover the differences between those two. Next. And then there's a few things that we want to consider with our dog fights. So if we have, oh, Trish, I'm sorry, this is your slide. You want to take over?
I'm going to look at how many dogs there are, how many handlers there are, first of all. Ideally, you will have the same number of handlers as you have dogs in the altercation, but that's not always the case. You might be out walking a dog and a loose dog comes up and grabs hold of yours. So you're going to address the aggressor. Usually there is one dog who is the aggressor and one dog trying to get away. Not always, sometimes they're both in it. But if you make a plan, if you have the right tools, if you have the right training, you can stay safe. And most dog fights are spit and noise and very little damage. So I'll hand it over to Laurie for this slide of her cute little dog.
Yes, that's Moose, known as Glory. So we're going to go over starting with the hands-off techniques because that's always the first intervention that you want to proceed in, especially if you don't know the dogs very well. There's a couple don'ts first, though, that we want to really consider and think about. Our initial instinct as humans is to reach and grab a collar as our first line of defense when there's a dog fight, and that is typically how most people get bit. You're kind of putting your hands right into the fire, so we want to talk about other ways that we can intervene to keep you safe. Kicking, hitting, or punching a dog during a dog fight seems like it might be effective or efficient, especially if one dog is grabbing and holding another one. But any type of additional kind of ferocity added to that is going to potentially just increase all the arousal and excitement, and potentially have them further their grip on the other dog, etc. So again, we don't want to put our hands near the dog's mouth. You would think that this is something that we know, but in the minute and moment of panic, I have often seen people go to try to grab a dog's mouth to pull the mouth open. We're not stronger than dogs typically, so it's a really great way to get injured. And I do know people who have had to even get surgery and reconstructive surgery on their hand from doing that with their own dog. So just never try to do that on your own. Don't put your body in between a dog fight. I've also seen that happen at a daycare once. And then finally, the last thing that Trish and I both felt was very important to include in this is never just pick up a small dog. First of all, I don't advocate for having small dogs in playgroups with large dogs just for pure size comparison. If something goes wrong, it can go bad. But if you pick them up, it's going to send that dog potentially into propensity to jump up. And if they get a hold of that dog and then their gravity pulls down, we can get a lot of damage there. So we want to be really careful. Alternatives are going to be to tuck the dog in a jacket or a sweatshirt, hopefully find a higher surface, a garbage can. If you're on the street, a car, something, we want to get that dog up and away, but dangling is not an ideal. The other thing that Trish and I wanted to make sure you guys knew straight out the gate is that you have time if there's a dog fight. It's loud, it's scary, it can feel very panicky, and that you have to do something immediately. But most dog fights are a lot of noise and spit, and we don't really have a ton of damage. So you don't need to jump in right away. There's other ways that we can intervene that keep us safe. There's a couple exceptions here. So if an airway is blocked, this can happen sometimes even if dogs are playing and a collar gets caught. The dogs will panic. One dog starts freaking out. The other one starts choking. I like to keep seatbelt cutters in all of my playgroup safety kits because seatbelt cutters are a really great way to just cut a collar off, and the dogs usually split up immediately. And then again, if it's a large and small dog, there's going to be a lot less time. We want to get involved a lot quicker so that we can make sure the small dog doesn't get overly injured. But in reality, like I said, most of the time we can just take a deep breath, we can get our tools, and then we can keep ourselves safe by intervening with those.
If you see Laurie at Expo, ask her for a seatbelt cutter because she's
yes, I'll have seatbelt cutters at
Expo.
Yeah, come find me at the Humane Innovations booth. I'll be there with my little table with seatbelt cutters. Yeah, so in this video, I wanted to show you just again going back to the timing that we sometimes and most of the time do have. So this is I'm going to show you greeting, and then I'm going to show you a fight and subsequently how it got broken up. Everything goes wrong. So in the greeting, there's 3 dogs. So we have a dog in the yard who is a tan blocky boy. He's a helper dog. We have a white and brindle female who was tricky. This is a shelter I was working at and trying to kind of get a better read on her because she had some good notes and bad notes. And then we have another third dog who comes into our stash pen. He was a male. He had just been cleared to return to playgroup after being neutered. So I want you to go ahead and watch the greeting of these 2 dogs, or of all the dogs in the stash area.
Which 2 dogs have not met.
Yes. So, nice, Emily. Okay, so if we paid close attention to that video, ideally we want all the dogs to meet and sniff at the gate area. You can switch to the next slide, Trish. But we were so busy trying to figure out the female and what was going on with her that we didn't realize that our blocky-headed friend, Harlem, never actually greeted the other male dog. So the fight in this video starts off camera. So I'll explain to you what happens, and then you'll see it proceed on camera. Harlem and the new male dog went to meet. Actually, the female and the other dog were fine. And then when the two boys went to meet, it first started out okay, and we weren't too worried about it because the staff had told us that Harlem had been in so many play groups. And as soon as he sniffed, Alvin was the other dog, his rear end, he realized, wow, hormones still there. And it immediately turned into a lot of vocal scuffle. There was some teeth flashing, but not a lot of contact, which was fine until the female decided to run across the yard and jump into it. So now we have three dogs fighting. So you're going to hear this fight, and then we're going to talk through and you're going to see it come onto camera, and then we'll talk through a little bit afterwards.
Such a great video to demonstrate how useful it is to have a stash pen like this in your play area.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what happened there? So after the female jumped in, I actually went and I was able to put a sleep lead her, or I was actually able to grab her drag line and move her to the stash pen, but her collar was loose, it fell off. And she ran out and restarted that fight. So that's why you can hear the fight kind of stop and then come right back as she comes running into the room, is because her collar slipped. So there was a couple mistakes that we made during this dog fight. So we didn't have all the dogs greet at the fence, and we didn't get a read on the two boys. We did not check all the equipment. The safety kit location was really far away. So when my colleague ran to go grab more tools, they were like 20 feet away. And the other staff member who was in the background, if you even noticed her, she was a social media folk, and she had not been trained on what to do if a dog fight broke out, so she didn't call for help or backup. So it was just my colleague, me, and then these three dogs. So with all of those things going wrong, did we kind of notice how long the fight lasted? It was only 24 seconds total. You have time. And none of
so long.
it feels so long, but you have time and nobody was hurt. That's the moral of the story. So as we get into managing our play groups, we're going to start with some of the management tools that can help us with preventing some of those escalating tensions. So grab tabs are great. I like to use them once I've had a dog in a group a couple times and I kind of know who they are a little bit. So it's less likely you might need to grab them, but I sometimes will use those to slow down adolescent dogs if they're running real fast. Then we have our full drag line, so that might be a 6-foot leash. So that's another tool that we can utilize. I like to really try to construct environments and play groups so that they're more conducive to dog body language and how they move naturally. So having things in your play group area that breaks up space and allows dogs to get up and go under is a great way for them to naturally do conflict mitigation. Spray bottles can be really helpful. So if you see something across the yard and you can't quite get there fast enough and you just need to do a little deterrent or get their focus on you, spray bottles are great. I usually spray chest to feet. I don't spray at their faces. Trish is going to go over some noise making options. Noise makers can be really helpful. And then stash pens. So that yard actually had two other of those. That was their intro area, but they had two other stash pens about the same size. And ideally, I know I have a crate in this photo, but it was hard to kind of find something that would fit in that little bubble. You'd ideally want something that's a full kennel size and not a crate. It is really hard when there's a lot of commotion going on to actually get a dog into a crate. So in an ideal world, you have at least an intro stash area and a secondary stash area.
Yeah, sometimes they just need a little break too.
Oh yeah, sometimes we'll use those just to calm the grouping down as well. All right, Trish, over to you.
So you will notice that only one of the dogs had a drag leash in that little everything went wrong scenario. And that's often how it is in a dogfight. It's just like a comedy of errors. It's just, the perfect storm. Ideally, a well-run playgroup should not have frequent altercations or really any at all. So keeping a drag line on every dog that I don't know really, really, really well. This was an introductory playgroup I did a few years ago. Didn't know any of these dogs. They're all dragging a 6-foot leash. So if somebody starts acting up, you can just step on the leash, pull them apart, and there's no more conflict. If that is not possible, you can move to water. Water is really great at calming dogs down if they're starting to get a little hot. Laurie and I both like having a pool in the play area. The dogs will actually literally and figuratively cool themselves off. It also prevents them guarding a little tiny bowl of water. Some dogs get really spicy around bowls. And there's lots of places you can get water in a shelter. I keep a little spray bottle on my belt, and that is honestly the tool that I have used most in dog fights. It's amazing how many of the muscular, blocky-headed dogs that we tend to have in most areas as our primary playgroup dogs, a lot of them are pretty sure they're going to die if they get slightly wet. So a little squirt can often back them off. You might have your own water bottle. You might have, if a fight's happening in a kennel, you might have a hose or a bucket of water. Lots of places you can get water. That little fire extinguisher is one that has water in it. Don't use the chemical ones, but you can pressurize a water-filled fire extinguisher. And the one I played around with at Longmont, you could shoot across the parking lot with that thing. So the nice thing about water is it will only affect the dog who's getting wet. So you might accidentally get more than one dog wet, but not usually more than two, unless you're using a fire extinguisher. Once you go to using noise to interrupt a dog fight, recognize that everybody who hears that noise is going to be affected. If you have a little shy dog sitting in the corner and you pull out the air horn and blast their eardrums out, they may not want to come to playgroup again. You might really harm them psychologically. So my first tool is going to be my voice. With my own personal dogs, they're pretty responsive to my voice. With dogs I have a training relationship with, so some dogs respond to voices quite well. The next, sort of moving up the scale of how much dogs don't like the sounds, the toy clapper is just a little different noise. We'll show you that one. At work, the rattle paddle on the top right, that looks like an oar. It's filled with little plastic pebbles, and it makes a rattling noise. I think they're used for herding, but you can also place it between dogs. You can make your own little shakers with pebbles in a bottle, or in a plastic bottle, or pennies in a can. It's a little louder and more some dogs listen to that a little better. The compressed air, the pet corrector, makes a really loud hissing noise. Make sure the lid stays on that if you're carrying it in your pocket. It comes out really cold and really loud, so don't put it too close to the dog because the air that comes out is quite cold. You might have bowls that you can clang together or against the side of the kennel. Sometimes that metallic sound will break dogs apart. And the air horn is my absolute last resort. I don't know if any of you in the chat have ever been near when one of those marine air horns is deployed, but your ears will ring for minutes afterwards. So sometimes it's the right tool, but that is going to scatter everybody. So if you're going to use your voice, you want to avoid high-pitched noises. If I have someone helping with playgroup and they tend to go to a scream if things go wrong, maybe they'll run the dogs to and from playgroup, but you can't be making high-pitched noises during a dog fight. If you're going to use your voice, keep it short, keep it low, keep it abrupt. If it's not working, move to another tool. But the best use for your voice is to have a walkie-talkie close by, especially if you're allowing dogs to interact and you don't have a whole lot of people and you don't have people nearby. As soon as a fight breaks out, call for help. So let me show you the voice. This is a dog who comes out whenever I'm riding my horse around my neighborhood in Western North Carolina. There are no leash laws in my county. So she comes out. I don't want her getting behind the horse. I don't want her to chase the horse. This horse will kick a dog if she's tugging at his tail. And you will see I don't even need to use my big scary dog trainer voice. She's quite a soft dog, but I will carry other, usually citronella with me if I'm in an unfamiliar area with animals of mine. Go home. Go. We have had this discussion many times. So here's the toy clapper. This is Daisy Wise's little dog Penny, and you will see that he is responsive to the little clappy clappy sound.
As soon as we brought out this stuff.
Yeah, clappy clap it, Penny. Penny pie. Good boy. There you go. Good job, Penny.
And of course, you can use your voice to tell them when they're good as well. That's an important use of. You can also put something in between dogs. If this is a Y pole from Humane Innovations, I don't usually have one in playgroup, but you might have one in your kennel. The rattle paddle can be put in between the dogs. It makes a louder sound. I've seen some amazing defensive handling in kennels with veranda beds, trash cans, chairs, whatever's around. Put it in between the dog. And your goal with a dog fight is always to get a door in between the two dogs who are fighting. So you saw that in Laurie's video where she got one of the dogs into the stash pen and then it was over. So think about the door, think about where the dog's going to go next. So this is a pig board. You might want to have one of these if in your area where you let dogs interact. It is lightweight. This is at a daycare where I was presenting. You're going to see me break up a very vicious husky fight with it. Coming in from the back. And this is at Laurie's daycare, so you'll see they're just using the lid of a Rubbermaid.
Very old video.
Much better.
Just quickly breaking that eye contact can make a difference. You might have towels around, you might have a blanket in a kennel that you can just throw over both of their heads. Sometimes when everything goes dark, they will let go and you can get hold of the back end of a dog and get them out of there. You might have a jacket on, you might have some other board-like things around. So think about blocking the view or making it dark for the dogs briefly. That will sometimes work. So this is a video from Dogs Playing for Life. I'm really grateful to Amy Sadler for letting me use some of her videos when I teach about dog fights. And this is the pet corrector. So you will see one handler come in from the left and use the water bottle. It's not working. So my friend Allie comes in from the right with a pet corrector. There's a lot of wind noise in this video, so it's a little hard to tell when the pet corrector is deployed. But you'll see this little brown dog in the middle go around and do a full layover grab shake on the dog who's upside down. And I just want to channel the chill of these two. I am not quite this chill when I'm breaking up a dog fight, but they are very calm. They have their tools. They know how to use them, and it's very effective.
It's on, you guys. Nicely done.
Just so calm. So citronella spray, you saw Emily come in with a citronella spray in Laurie's video, and you could see it was not effective. The dog is really in it. Sometimes it doesn't work. It's not my favorite shelter play group tool, although I will absolutely carry some if I am out and about with walking my dogs in a new area, for example. I will absolutely make somebody else's dog smell lemony fresh, but I don't love doing it to shelter dogs because it's kind of an impediment to them to be smelling lemony until their very next bath. And they have such sensitive noses. I don't love it, but sometimes it's the right tool. It's hands off. You're not putting your hands anywhere near the dog, but practice outside with all of these aerosolized deterrents. I think we should test them like you do a fire extinguisher, because if they're out in the weather, they're carried in and out to the play yard. If you've got really hot weather, really cold weather, they may not work. And you need to practice with them. So if this is a new tool to you, take one of them outside, practice taking that little red safety off, see how far it sprays. When you first get a new bottle, it will spray a lot further, and then it'll get less and less and less of a spray until it's empty. But having that muscle memory of flipping the safety before you use it is important. So if I'm out walking my dogs and a dog comes charging up, I do not mind spraying it in front of their nose first. A lot of dogs, that's all you need if they're not super determined. If they come in and they're grabbing, you can spray it right into their nose and mouth. It is not going to harm them. It just tastes very bad. But if the dog's really determined, I have seen people empty a whole can of it into a dog's mouth without getting them to let go. And you want to avoid sprays like mace that might blow back on you. I'll move on to Laurie for hands-on techniques.
Awesome. Cool. This is where the fun videos start. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so if all of those things that we just discussed did not work or not efficient, or we have maybe a grabbing and holding incident going on and we need to get really hands-on, there's a few different things that we need to focus on as far as honing our skills to keep ourselves safe and also to stabilize the situation quickly. Next. Let's see. Okay, so the first thing that we want to focus on is actually where you're going to end up. This is the ideal position for you to have the dog at the very end of the dog fight, and we call that control position or control stance. So the main thing about this is that the dog cannot redirect back to you from this position. We've got them held between our legs, and then we've got our arm grabbing the collar and ideally some of the scruff, because oftentimes in shelters, the collars that we use are maybe secondhand, etc. And so plastic. So if you grab the collar and the dog's very strong and they break it, the dog's just going to be gone. So we want to make sure that we've got the dog between our legs. You ideally want to kind of get your legs like right where their haunches are, right at their hips. And you just kind of lightly press and hold so you're not like squeezing them to death, but they can't really back out of it. And then when you're holding the collar, I want you to just pay attention to the way that Trish's arm is in this and that her elbow is pretty locked. So if that dog was to try to turn towards you, you can twist and pivot the dog away. And then as soon as you have the dog under control, then you want to pull your slip leash off, which you should always have on you, and then slip lead the dog and then proceed to move them to a stash pen in the yard. So the next important concept that we're going to talk about is the wheelbarrow. The primary things that you need to know for this is that you're coming from behind the dog. As you're coming in to get the dog, you likely will have to match their momentum. So dog fights are not usually happening in a standstill position. So we kind of have to navigate and figure out where the dog is. We need to then place our hands on the back haunches there, right in the hips or at the top of the thighs. I typically don't like to grab below the knees because it gets really destabilized. And unless you're really strong, that can be just really hard to do. So anyway, so we grab the back of that thigh. We want to squeeze lightly. And as long as they don't turn and try to redirect on you, you squeeze a little harder and then you're going to pull them back. And then you're going to pivot them. So you want to get them away like visually from the other dog as quickly as possible. So you're kind of pulling to your core and then you're pivoting as fast as possible and then putting them into that control stance. So Trish has a video here of doing a wheelbarrow with two dogs that were fighting. Go ahead, Trish.
I like to have people practice this on just adolescent balls or stuff.
Yeah, stuffed dogs are great. And I did slow this video down a little bit so you can really focus in on Trish's movements as she goes to do this.
Helper failed.
Love it. So you can see how she did a quick pivot turn to get behind the dog and really pulled the dog into her core. You don't want to pull the dog and start walking backwards. You want the dog under control first before you do anything else. So in this video, these are two dogs that were at my training facility a few years ago, and one of them was a little remedial, so we were doing some work here, and they had two leashes on, both of them, and as they were running, they got a little tangled, so I turned around and went to go take a leash off of a dog because they had been playing pretty well, and then the fight breaks out. In this video, what I would like you to pay attention to is that I did have to grab this dog's collar because he was stronger than me. He was probably about a 65, 75 pound dog, and And when I went to go pull his haunches back, I just didn't have the strength. So you're going to see me grab the collar, but you're going to see immediately how I put that dog in a control position. Go ahead, Trish. I've also slowed this one down for you guys too.
Nice control possession.
Yes. So you can see I almost, when I got him to me, I stopped briefly before the pivot. You want to make sure you have the control first before proceeding forward. And then I have one more also for my dog training facility. I work with weird dogs. I don't know. This is kind of the way my career sent me. And so in this circumstance, this dog did have a grab tab on her, and that is because she had an issue with some arousal where it would tip over. Her frustration tolerance is very low, and she would go from really excited to frustrated or tipping over really quickly. She also had some resource guarding challenges. So knowing all of this about Bella, I had a grab tab on her in the play yard for a very specific reason. So she's going to go after a dog that she, again, had been playing with for a while and was okay, and then wasn't. And then you're going to see how I actually use the grab tab. Because I knew she was probably going to try to redirect on me, and I used the grab tab to keep her mouth away from me as I go to pull her away from the fight. So all these tools can be really helpful for a variety of different reasons. We just want to make sure that we know how to use them properly. And in that circumstance, I was able to use the tab as I was pivoting her to kind of hold her away from me. And then all I had to do was twist the tab up to keep her neck up and away from me so she couldn't do that redirecting. So those are two fights in which it was a lot more of that vocalization, it was a lot of icky, meh, blah, blah, blah. What do we do if there's a grip, right? What do we do with the hold? I did see a question come in with that. The first thing is we don't want to pull apart. We don't want to try to separate the dogs because if we have one dog attached to the other, if we pull, we can potentially create more damage. But sometimes you don't always know right away, especially if you're the first one on the scene. So if you do go to pull a dog, and then recognize that they're attached, you really want to make sure that you immediately stop pulling, stabilize the dog, call for help if you haven't already. We should always call for help first. Secure the dog, stabilize them, and then proceed to use a tool, the correct tools, or to feed the bite, which Trish is going to go over next. But this is another daycare video because they're so old, but they came out of the woodwork for this. And you're going to see one of my staff members come in and grab a dog and recognize that the dog is still attached. The other dog's still attached. Go ahead, Trish. Okay, it was over really quick, right? Because he recognized the dog was attached. He pivoted her to the corner. Actually, to give Ray credit, the first thing he did was come around behind the dog, like we talked about, to the wheelbarrow, picked the dog up, realized it was attached. A second staff member was coming for help, but he was able to use that corner. And then Christian, who was the other staff member, came in and they were able to feed the bite really quickly, split them off. And then there was a door there where we had our washer and dryer. So he was able to very quickly move the dog there, and the whole situation was resolved. Chappie got kicked out of daycare. Sorry, Chappie. He's kind of a jerk sometimes.
Laurie and I both started our careers in dog daycares, so good place to hire your playgroup folks from. So this air horn video is also from Dogs Playing for Life, and I've watched this video a lot of times, and the first time I saw it, I wondered, why did Cody go directly to an air horn after the water did not work? And having watched this video a lot of times over the years I've been presenting on breaking up dog fights, I think this was a 2-dog fight that was about to become a 7-dog fight. So you see all the other dogs are piling on, and Cody comes in, the air horn dissipates everybody. The other thing to watch in this video is the way people coming in and adding pressure can escalate things. So Amy's coaching them to actually move back, which is sometimes the right thing to do when dogs are having a discussion.
The black dog sees
You guys back up from over there, please. He's trying to establish himself, and so far he's being very fair. Hold on.
Wait. No mouth.
No mouth, right. There you go.
Always impressed with how Cody gets his foot on the right leash in that. That is some nice handling. So I had a really bad dog fight in my tiny house a few years ago, and luckily I had a second trainer there, and I had a break stick in the car, and we were able, it was a gripping fight, large dog, small dog situation. And sometimes I think about what would have happened. So it was a foster dog who grabbed my small dog. And I think if I hadn't had Cat there, what would I have done? And this is what I have come up with. If there are more dogs than humans, ideally you can, in a shelter, you can call for help. Ideally, everybody has been trained in dogfight protocols. So call for backup first. While the backup is coming, if you still have more dogs than humans, you can first get any extraneous dogs out of it. So you don't have a 2-dog fight that becomes a 7-dog fight. You're going to secure one of the dogs with the leash and then separate the other dog using whatever tool is appropriate, and then move one of them behind the door. So here's how to make any leash into a waist leash to secure a dog. If he's fighting with the front end, you don't want to put your hands near the bitey end of the dog. You want to keep your hands well back, but you might be able to get a waist leash on him. I'm going to use my dog Theodore as the assistant. He very consistently tried to play with every stuffed dog he ever met, except when I'm trying to video it. So I'm going to do a really modified wheelbarrow with him here because he's old and arthritic. If this was an actual fight, I would lift the hind end up and separate. And of course, chickens are always optional in a dog fight. You don't need to have them. He was very good with the chickens. So imagine these 2 dogs are fighting. Secure one. We're going to imagine it's not a gripping fight. If it was a gripping fight, I would use different tools or feed the bite. I'm going to get him in control position and face him away from the dog he was fighting with.
I was like, and pet and kiss him.
Well, that was very rude doing a modified wheelbarrow on him, so he got some extra scritches. And he got cookies for that. But what if they are attached? What if they are gripping? Like, imagine this is a random internet picture of 2 dogs in an actual dog fight in another country. And imagine pulling those 2 dogs apart. I'm sure some of you have seen it done. And that's often where the damage gets done, is I know of a dog who lost an ear that way when adopters tried to pull their new dog off their resident dog. The resident dog lost part of his ear because people pulled them apart. People don't know what to do. So feeding the bite is one thing you can do. So play along with me. I want you to bite your hand with your other hand. Really do this, guys. It's a good illustration. I stole this from Dogs Playing for Life too. So when you pull your hands apart, you feel how your biting hand almost wants to bite down harder. But now try to keep the same bite strength and push in. And you feel how that sort of separates the jaws. So that's the principle behind feeding the bite. You're going to stabilize one dog, push in, and then immediately pull apart as that loosens the grip. It's not always going to work, but if you don't have a break stick, it is worth trying. So this is a video from Dogs Playing for Life, and you will see if they just pulled, look at the big grip he's got on the side of that dog's face. That is not safe. So you'll see Amy first get the dogs perpendicular to one another. You can't feed the bite when they're both feeding, they're in the same direction. You'll see her assistant stabilizing the dog with her hands well away from the bitey end. And Amy's going to push in and separate them.
I got it.
Hand that over to Laurie.
All right. So ideally, if we're running playgroups in a shelter and if you work with dogs as a professional, you should just have a break stick. They're rarely ever needed to be used, but not having one when you know how to use one and you don't have it with you is like the worst. So the brake stick makes it a lot easier to separate these types of gripping fights. And it's very important that you know exactly where they are. So if you're the lead of running the playgroup, you should always have one in your pocket. And I like to make sure that when I'm running, I'm very not ambidextrous. I am very right-handed. That brake stick lives in my right pocket every time I'm running playgroups because I want to know exactly where it is and how to grab it, because seconds can matter. If you have multiple playgroup yards, there should be one in every yard. You should have them in your kennels. I have seen dogs latch onto each other through kennel bars, loose dog sit scenario. And if you have to run across the building to get a brake stick or call for it's just, if we have it right there, it's just so much better. We're really using these for gripping fights only. So we don't want to like go in and start like poking dogs with sticks. Generally, that's not what we use them for. So
Not
really
thorough.
just reserved. Yeah, just really reserved for this specific thing. It's generally a good idea to have a second person. It's really hard to do that whole feed the bite thing. That works and is what you're going to continue to want to do when you're using a brake stick as well. That's really hard to do when you're by yourself and it can be dangerous. So ideally you have two. And I just wanted to break a little misnomer from an article that, as Trish says, is back from the 1990s, that the brake stick itself goes into the molars. The molars are like all the way back here. So imagine trying to get the stick all the way in the dog's mouth. We want to get it as far back as we can, but ideally just behind the canines. And then you're going to want to kind of move it in as far as you can, usually about a half inch to an inch, depending on the size of the dog. And then you're going to do what we call a motorcycle twist. So different people are going to twist differently, and you're going to find your strength in the moment when you need it. I am a twist forward type of a person. Some people twist back. So you just have to kind of work with what you're doing in that direct moment. But you're not going to hit the molars. So just throw that one out the window. Never heard it before. Just get it in there, get it behind the canines, and then go forward.
Nice little gap built right into their
Yep.
skull.
Yes.
So my old boss, Dr. Pam Reed, luckily a lot of my experience using brake stick at first was with stuffed dogs. We use them at the ASPCA in dogfighting scenarios. When we're assessing the dogs, it's actually quite a good first pass to determine which dogs are going to be dangerous towards other dogs. And I love this video because I don't know if you've met Dr. Reed, but she is teeny tiny. And this is a big, very game dog who's got a very strong grip on the stuffed dog. And you can see that using control position, using the right tool, you'll see her trying both directions to get the dog to release, but Pam is pretty easily able to get this dog to let go.
Yeah, make sure you get this for sure.
She's got him secured until the other dog is out of
Yeah.
So hopefully this will be a handy dandy overview for some of you, give you the bravery to allow your dogs to interact. If you're already doing play groups, hopefully you've got some tools, some ideas for what you need to have in a fight kit. So important to train staff on the right tools and techniques. Laurie's got a dog play mentorship. I've got the shelter dog behavior mentorship. We both have modules on breaking up dog fights, defensive handling. And remember, you probably have time. If you've seen videos of a dog fight by professional dog fighters, they can go on an hour, they can go on 2 hours with dogs who have been trained to do maximum damage. So better to go and get the tools and come back to it than to try and then have to go and get the tools and come back to it. Make a plan. Always try hands off first. That's going to be inherently safer. As soon as you put your hands on a dog, you are going to be in more danger. So that's a little more about me and Laurie. If you want to contact us about any of the awesome things we offer. And I will stop the share. I believe Dr. Segerson has a list of resources for you that's going to be available after this talk.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. This was amazing. And we have lots of great questions. So let's get to as many as we can. So our first one is, what about dogs who are barrier reactive? Having them meet with a gate between them could make it worse. No?
Take Laurie's mentorship and she will give you some
Trish, do
other
you want? Yeah, yeah. There's a variety of different ways that you can introduce dogs. So, if we have a dog who in the kennel has started to show a lot of barrier reactivity and or comes in with history of reactivity on leash, barrier reactivity and leash reactivity tend to kind of go hand in hand. So, what you're going to want to do is try to come up with some other greeting. Go for a parallel walk. I actually really love Jessica Wheatcraft's circle walks that she does. She's got a really cool, she just made a post about it the other day, but it's really cool. You kind of give the dogs time to decompress and see each other. And then slowly work them into it. So you don't necessarily, just because a dog is coming in, they have to go direct into playgroup or we have to force them to meet other dogs. I actually think if we have dogs with known histories and we do have that information, we need to adapt our strategies to those dogs to set them up for success. And that's always my goal.
And
So
you'll notice, Laurie and I have both noticed this, that some of your most reactive dogs are only screaming because they are so frustrated that they can't meet and
yeah,
saying, oh, only dog home, keep this dog away from other dogs is going to build that frustration and actually make them more dangerous
yeah,
over time. So
yeah.
don't just say, oh, he's reactive, he can't meet another dog. Find out
Yeah.
for sure.
It's a good thing, actually, Trish, that you mentioned that. Reactivity is a label, and we put on a lot of dogs, and it usually means barking and lunching. But reactivity can come from fear, it can come from frustration. So there's a variety of different reasons. So if you could figure out the underlying reason of that dog's reactivity, it makes it a lot easier to figure out what's the best way to integrate them into play groups.
And if the dog is in fact a heat-seeking missile who's going to go in and grab and shake and try to kill other dogs, I feel pretty strongly that we should not be adopting those out at all. That is just not, that's a community safety issue. And we're the ones who should figure that out. We shouldn't be making our adopters find that out at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next question is, I feel like one of the most common questions I get, and that is, we don't do this, but I know someone who has inserted a finger into the anus to get dogs to let go. Thoughts?
Trish, you want that one? I can take it.
I have broken up a lot of dog fights between my years in daycare and my years in sheltering, and I have never once had to do this. I have certainly anecdotally heard people who claim that works. It's not high on the list of things. If you have a proper toolkit, if you have proper training, the tools that we've talked about should keep your fingers clean and your dog's a little less traumatized. But have you used that one, Laurie?
I have not, no. And the one time that I saw somebody do it, it didn't work. So,
Yeah, same here. I've heard from people who've tried it and it didn't work, and it kind of makes sense. If you're latched on and really focused, you're not noticing.
yeah. I think for it to work, it would have to be painful and very aversive. And it would have to be a higher level of aversive than the fight that you're currently engaged in. So I think there's other strategies, you know. So
And the redirection risk is
yes, yes.
definitely
Let's all
higher.
come to a general consensus. Not my first strategy.
I have anecdotally heard of people where it's worked, but not on my list.
All right. We end these webcasts at 50 minutes, but I want to try to get to a couple more at least. The next question is, what's the best way to use a seatbelt cutter without getting your hands in the way?
Oh, that's a good one. Trish, I
Laurie,
can,
yeah,
yeah.
you're the seatbelt
So
cutter queen.
So actually, I think that the collar caught situations are some of the most dangerous because neither dog really understands what's going on. And so usually the dog whose collar is the one that's being pulled. They feel like they're getting choked and they're usually flailing and biting everything. And then the other dog is confused as to why they're still attached to the other dog. So there's lots of mouths. So you just have to be really careful. I definitely recommend having, if you can call for help, to maybe stabilize the rear ends of the dog so you could come in. What's great about the seatbelt cutters is if you come in, you can do it really quick. So you can just grab the collar and then let go, and the collar falls off, and then everybody kind of splits up. So really, that is probably one of the trickiest ones, and happens so rarely. But in the moment that you need to save a dog's life, you have that tool set, but it is one that you may get bit in the middle of, or at least a cut. But if you can have two people and you can kind of stabilize the rear ends and get in there on the back of the neck, that's going to be your best option.
And that is also a reason why I don't like slip leads as a drag leash, because if
Yeah.
a dog pulls on that, they can
I have
choke each other out.
dogs do that before. It's you're running around the yard chasing them like, no, please stop. So,
Yeah, no, not safe. Attach it to a collar.
yeah.
All right. Thanks for that. Our next question has lots of upvotes. Do you have a go-to plan for a dog that attacks a person in playgroup?
Ooh,
Oh
that's a
boy.
good one. Trish, you take that one.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we will not be putting human aggressive dogs in playgroup or up for adoption, but sometimes you don't know until you know. And most commonly, the attacks happen as a redirect. So having drag leads, having a way to get that dog quickly out of the way, if you're able to get the dog into control position until someone comes with, I would use a control pole on a dog who is actively trying to bite a person. But the most common bites I've seen are if the person is adding pain to the situation, and this is our fighting style as humans. We go in with our fists and our feet, and that
Mhm.
that can cause dogs to bite. But yeah, do you have anything to add to that, Laurie?
Make sure nobody starts screaming.
Oh God, yeah. Oof.
Yeah, and
I don't think we have a lot of control over what comes out of our mouths when we're
no,
trying, but
but try to keep the person calm, because that's what's going to escalate that type of a situation really quickly. But a lot of these tools that we went over today can also be used in a scenario like that as well. Like a pig board is probably what I'd run and grab something I can just. So yeah.
All right. And I'm hoping to get one more question in before Laurie needs to leave for another meeting, but Trish can stay on a couple more minutes.
Yeah.
And this next question, we only have 2 employees on duty once a week. For this reason, we don't have many playgroups. What would your recommendation be to hold successful and safe playgroups? Would it be better to just have a playgroup once a week when 2 members are on duty?
I am a big fan of dogs playing for life's every dog every day motto. Train your volunteers. I have seen shelters have 100% volunteer led play groups,
Yep.
and honestly, you often have volunteers on board longer than you have staff on board. So train your volunteers to help with play groups, and you may be amazed at who steps up, because it is the most fun you can have as a volunteer now. That is like the only thing I do with shelters is going and help with play groups, because it's the most fun
Yeah.
you can have with a shelter dog, in my opinion. You get to see
Yeah.
them
So
at their best.
we have somebody who's in this in the chat there today that I know who is volunteer run playgroups at their shelter. So it's definitely doable. But I would say if there's only two people on staff and you set aside time until you can get those volunteers trained, you could probably do play pairs or maybe even trios. Although three is hard sometimes because one always ends up being like the one either
Always
getting
two
picked
against
on
one.
or circling and like being very annoying to the other two. So I like to always have two or four or more. It's my typical rule of thumb there. But yeah, I think that what Trish was saying is volunteers can do a heck of a lot. We just have to give them the knowledge and the power and the empower them to take charge, but do it within the boundaries we set. And it's awesome. It's so cool to see.
I've done play groups with dogs at fighting busts with just me and a couple of volunteers.
Mhm.
I'm like, give me a person with 2 arms and a heartbeat, and I will train them.
Yep, yep.
All right. And Laurie, did I
Yes.
hear correctly that you offer a playgroup mentorship?
Yes, I do. I have an online playgroup mentorship. It's actually my first session of this cohort is in 5 minutes. So I do have to jump off for that, but I will be running it again probably mid-May. I don't have the exact dates yet. It's a 4-week mentorship. It's a pre-recorded course, and then we meet weekly to go over the topics and do some talking about how we can implement changes at our shelter. So it's been really fun to do. This is my third, and I'm hoping to keep building that as we go forward.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Laurie.
I wish I could stay. I could talk about this stuff all day, but thank you so much for having me. And hope to see you all soon. Come find me at Expo or another conference. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
guys.
Thanks, Laurie. And we'll stay on for just a couple more minutes with
Sure.
Trish for some more questions. All right. Our next one is, do you have a preference about using drag lines versus grab tabs?
Yeah, I'm a dragline fan. I think a lot of the grab tabs Laurie has used have been with dogs she knows. You have to get so close to them to grab it that I start with usually a 6-foot leash, not a real light one that whips around their legs, and not a really heavy one that's going to drag them down. You can cut the handles off if you've got things they can get caught on, but I like a 6-foot leash, and my helper dogs usually get their leashes removed pretty quickly, but the dogs I don't know that are coming in, put a leash on them.
Okay, thanks. That's super helpful. And then related to that question, can you speak a bit more on grab tabs, when to use them? It sounds like you said when you know the dogs well is a better time to use them.
Yeah, that would be a great question for Laurie. Go take her mentorship and ask her about grab tabs. I have not honestly used them a whole lot with shelter dog play because you have to get so much closer to grab them, but they're also less likely to be grabbed by the other dogs. If you got a leash dragging along, some of them want to pick it up.
Okay, thank you. Two questions about break sticks. One is, are break sticks safe being that close to the mouth?
The break stick is only for a gripping fight. If the dog is locked on and holding on, if the dogs are doing this, do not put your hand or the break stick or anything near their mouths. They're only for gripping fights, and you have to be in control position first. If you are not standing with one knee on either side of that dog's hips, they can whip around and get you. But if you are in that position and you've got a scruff and you bring it in from the back, it's pretty hard for them to bite you. So practice when I teach this in person, we practice on stuffed dogs. I am a big fan of getting that muscle memory.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. And next question is suggestions for an extra large size dog, especially for shorter people or extra strong dogs. I don't run a play group, so possibilities would be when I'm walking one of the shelter dogs and another dog is loose. Also, given that the fight is often a constantly moving dance, is there an ideal moment to look for as a moment to get in to get the aggressor?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is setting things up correctly from the start. If you've got, a Great Dane, like I can't stand over them in control positions. So if they are gripping, it's inherently a lot more dangerous if you are not in control positions. So I would suggest using hands-off tools. If you're walking a big dog in an area where there might be dogs coming up to you, keep some of those aerosolized tools with you. My favorite one is the citronella spray because it goes a long way. And often when the dogs get a little sniff of it, they will back off.
All right. Thank you. We are out of time, well, past out of time. Thank you so much, Trish. This was amazing.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I hope this gives people the courage to let their dogs interact because this is our job. This is our job as shelter people. We should be off leash testing every single dog in our care because if we don't do it, our adopters will, our community will, and if the dog truly is dangerous, we need to catch those guys before they go out. It is not safe to send dogs out who are going to hurt other people's pets.